Liverpool Football Club fans, and welcome back to Talking Reds. I am your host, Ryan of the Late Night Reds Show, and we are starting it off with some huge, massive breaking news. Now, let me just pull my phone up so that I get these quotes perfectly spot on. Newcastle United's striker, Alexander Isak's agent, has spoke to Saudi Arabian newspapers. Here are his quotes. We are studying and analysing our options, and we may be close to finalising the next step for the player without revealing any details of a transfer. That is huge. Absolutely huge. Now, in this whole saga around Alexander Isak, there's not been much public talk from either the player or his agent. And I fully believe that that was going to stay the way for at least the meantime. And then the Eddie Howe moment happened, leaving him out of the squad against Celtic, and the quotes that came after with Eddie Howe. Is this the agent and Isak putting pressure on the club? Now, interestingly, he's done the interview with Saudi Arabian newspapers, and I believe this is for two reasons. Reason one, I think it's to keep a possible move to the Saudi Arabian League option open. And I believe number two is to put pressure on the Saudi Arabian owners of Newcastle. Eddie Howe appears to be open to letting Alexander Isak go and try and fulfill his dream of competing for the Champions League and the Premier League with Liverpool Football Club. It appears to be more the Saudi Arabian owners of Newcastle that do not want to let him go, which is completely understandable because he is their prized asset. But this is pressure. This is pressure from the agent, and he knows exactly what he's doing. First of all, let's head to the chat. LODB, how are we, mate? As always, he is spot on. Remember to like and subscribe on your way in, people. Every click helps the channel massively, as he says, as we build towards that 1,000 subscribers. We're so close now. After Damo and the lads have been smashing the streams, and now the introduction of Late Night Reds, we're going for that 1K, and we're getting there soon. Beefy says, hi DB, hi Ryan. Hello Beefy, good evening, my friend. What are we making of that? What are we making of that Alexander Isak agents talk? Let me know what you're thinking in the comments now. I just want to pull them up again so that we can go through them, because I think this is really important. So same again. We are studying and analysing our options, and we may be close to finalising the next step for the player without revealing any details of a transfer. How does that read to you? Newcastle fans are worried. Newcastle fans on Twitter, their accounts are worried. How does that read to you? We are studying and analysing our options, and we may be close to finalising this next steps for the player without revealing any details of a transfer. Now, if that was a contract extension, why would he leave that at the end? Why would he leave without revealing any details of a transfer? Is studying and analysing the next options, we are studying and analysing our options. Does that mean they're mulling over a potential transfer request or Alexander Isak going out on strike? I think this is huge, because what it can do and what it may do is kick the wheels into motion of a bit more pressure from the player on the club. If Eddie Howe is open to selling the player for a cash injection to go and improve his squad, because we know how much they've struggled with making transfers, then surely the agent coming out with quotes like this is going to put massive pressure on Newcastle and their ownership. I think this is absolutely huge. I'll give you guys a second to let me know what you think in the comments. So start filling those comments up. If you're in here, start smashing the likes. We're trying to build up Late Night Reds. We're trying to build up Talking Reds. Every kind of little bit of support you can give is brilliant. The more likes the stream gets, the more it gets pushed out to new people, and that's how we build our community. I'm just analysing these quotes from the agent because I want to make sure that we try and maybe read between any lines that could be there. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of those comments? Let's go to the chat. They're definitely considering it, and it's difficult not to into things than you actually should. Yeah, well, true. Sometimes I suppose you should just see things for the face value of what they are. But what you have to understand is these agents and clubs, they use the media in clever ways, and I think this is one of them. I think there's a reason. I think there is a reason that he has gone to Saudi Arabia to do it. Let me know what you think about those reasons that he's gone to Saudi Arabia to do this interview. Is it a case of he's just been caught there and he's over there? Or is it a case of that he has sent those interview quotes directly to a Saudi Arabian maybe journalist that he knows or something? DB says it's all a bit odd to me, mate. As his options are limited to what NUFC allow, so it sounds like him saying, let us go or we will take action ourselves if you force our hand, including strike. That seems to be the going thing at the moment, is for players to go on strike, doesn't it? I honestly believe that Alexander Isak and Newcastle have two options. Okay, if he's to leave, I believe the club has two options: they either sell him to Saudi Arabia, and obviously they get a huge cash injection, but I reckon they'd have to force the player a little bit more to accept that, or they sell to Liverpool in England because I think we're the only club who could genuinely attract him and afford him. And I believe the reason that he's gone to Saudi Arabia or has used Saudi Arabian news outlets to get these quotes out is because Eddie Howe is willing to see it from the player's point of view and let him leave, use that cash to get the players that he needs to improve his 11 and his wider squad. And it is the Saudi Arabian owners that will not let him leave. I think it's to put pressure on the ownership of Newcastle United. Yeah, Beefy agrees with DB. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I really do think that's what it is. Remember, guys, make sure you're liking, make sure you're subscribing to Talking Reds. If you want to see more of my beautiful face, I've had to get the glasses on. I've had to get the spectacles on because I'm spending that much time at the moment streaming. I'm looking at the screen and scrolling Twitter. My screen time on my phone must be an absolute disgrace. I'm getting headaches from looking at screens, so I've had to throw these old guys on. DB says the Saudi thing is them getting a bit petty because they know NUFC made that nonsense about Saudi offer, so they've gone to Saudi press to say two can play that game. Possible. It's possible. That would be a little bit of a agent versus club kind of thing, wouldn't it? I really think it could be. As Damo says, their road to 1K is on. Ekitike, done. Ekitike is done. Who is next? Now, this is what we were going to speak about. This is what we were going to get into, but obviously, Isak's agent's quotes just dropped, so that was the initial reaction coming into the stream. We'll give it a couple of more minutes and let us mull over it all and discuss it in the chat, and then we'll talk about incomings and outgoings, because I think Federico Chiesa being left out of the tour is more than what we actually, think it is on the surface. DB says it's getting messy, and I think they are now learning they have to force their hand to get the transfer done and can't sit back and play with no comment game anymore, as NUFC will then force him to stay. 100% DB, 100%. There is not a chance in hell that Newcastle are going to play nice here and let their prized asset leave the football club without either kicking up a fuss or being able to point him out as the bad guy. There is not a chance. If Alexander Isak and his agent are happy to sit there and go, look, we've got a 3-year deal. We'd really appreciate it if you'd listen to offers, but I completely understand where you sit, Newcastle. Then you can kiss your move goodbye. But player power, 9 times out of 10 wins. If Alexander Isak and his agent start really putting it on Newcastle, as these comments suggest could be the case, there is every possibility that Newcastle will have to fold. And the fact that they're not being able to get business done and Eddie Howe is getting more and more frustrated by the day only plays into Alexander Isak and his agent's hand. All I know is Isaac's had his head turned. Let's face it, who wouldn't want to come to this team? Listen, I was on about this in the stream before. There is no doubt in my mind Alexander Isak is sat there now watching this all fold out and he's getting itchy feet. Okay. There is a possibility. There is a possibility that Liverpool come in future windows for him. No doubt about that. But let's just try and see this from Alexander Isak's point of view. All right. So I'm Alexander Isak. Well, no, I'm not, because I'm slightly better at football than Alexander Isak. So I'm Alexander Isak in his prime, right? And I'm sat there. We've gone for James Trafford. Missed out on him. Gone for Mbuemo. Missed out on him. Gone for Ekitike. He could be a really good part. Oh, missed out on him. Hold the phone. We're selling our midfielder there. So we're the midfielder short. We need a centre half. Not moving for any centre halves. Hello? Oh, oh, okay. That's my agent on the phone. Liverpool Football Club want to drop £120 million on me. What are Liverpool doing? Let me just check Liverpool's business. Alexander Isak gets out his beautiful phone. Oh, they've signed Florian Wirtz to play in the number 10. Oh, they've signed Frimpong and Kirkes as their new fullbacks. Oh, they've signed Ekitike, the lad that I wanted to play with at Newcastle. And they're already interested in Rodrygo, and of course they're the Premier League champions, who have also got Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk, Ibu Konate, Dominic Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch, Gakpo. The list goes on. So he sat there seeing all this happen, and he's thinking, well, if I don't make that move now, and even if I make it in January, or I make it next summer, Ekitike might have already established himself as the first-choice striker. Liverpool might go and win the Champions League and the Premier League next season, and I could have been on that train. Liverpool might spend next season playing and finding a different style of play that I don't fit in, and I don't get my move to Liverpool. Strike whilst the iron's hot. Alexander Isak and his agent are feeling the same vibe. Liverpool know there's half a chance and are waiting patiently. Newcastle are under pressure to improve, under the pressure to keep the best players, but also under pressure to sell for PSR and squad improvement. This has got a lot left to go. Beefy says we could give money plus play as well. There is rumours they're interested in Simicast. There's rumours that they're interested in Harvey Elliott. It's Coke. Well, it's Pepsi Max, by the way. Massive. Right. Let's talk about the incomings and the outgoings. First of all, Hugo Ekitike appears to be done and dusted. Liverpool have a verbal agreement with Eintracht Frankfurt on what's going to happen next. Ironing out how those add-ons are going to be achieved. And then Liverpool will complete the deal for their new number 9. Outgoings. Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez have been the most obviously reported ones over the past couple of weeks. Harvey Elliott is in that question. Robertson has been in that question. Federico Chiesa has been in that question. Now, any more incomings look like they were going to be dependent on any possible sales, especially after the signing of Hugo Ekitike. But to see Federico Chiesa left out of the Tour of Asia due to a slight knock, even though he played the full second half today in the preseason friendly behind closed doors, spells to me that Liverpool are trying to get him out of the door quick so that they can open up a squad spot and potentially sign Luis Diaz or the second striker alongside Ekitike's replacement before having to sell Darwin Núñez or Luis Diaz. So, who could that be? Let's just go back to the chat. This is a wild metaphor, but this is becoming like your missus saying, I love you, but this isn't working, and I've fallen for XYZ. And you say, nope, you're going to stay. I don't really care, as I need you. It's not a bad metaphor to use. I mean, probably some kind of moral and legal issues around kidnap, but hey, look, if Newcastle can do it, I'm sure you can, do it for your missus or something there. Beefy says, must be tempting for Newcastle. They would take Núñez or Elliott. Maybe not Darwin Núñez, but I think they definitely take a punt on Harvey Elliott. Maybe that's the way that Liverpool could sweeten the deal. It makes it easier for Newcastle fans to go, look, we've had to sell one of our star players because he wants to move out, but we've got an absolute large chunk of money up front, and whilst also improving with the signing of, a Harvey Elliott. Does he fit into what they need right now? Possibly, possibly not. It all depends on, I presume, what Eddie Howe's going forward with. But just swinging back to the Chiesa one. So, I believed that Rodrygo was the number one replacement for Luis Diaz, and that is the idea. The club want to pursue him and get him done and dusted. But they also need to keep their strong negotiation, keep a strong hand in negotiations for Luis Diaz, as the only clubs to show genuine interest at the moment have been European teams in Bayern Munich and Barcelona, who we know can't stump up a fee that the Saudi Arabians can. So if Liverpool are in a situation where Rodrygo, and that potential deal is seeing other clubs come in and we're against a little bit of time, then clubs will feed up on that and then they'll start to apply pressure by offering a slightly lower fee for Darwin Núñez in the hope that Liverpool are pressured into selling for that lower fee because obviously they're desperate to get Rodrygo. However, if you get rid of Federico Chiesa, you open up a squad spot for either a Rodrygo or an Alexander Isak. Because then there's no pressure to sell anyone, probably bar Darwin Núñez. If, for example, it was Rodrygo who came in for Chiesa and Luis Diaz had not been sold yet and it turns out that he has to stay, Luis Diaz could just play the season, or at least up until January, as the false nine. He could be the second option behind Hugo Ekitike, Gakpo and Rodrygo on the left, and then it could be Salah and Frimpong on the right. Or obviously you got Rio and Gamora and other youngsters like Ben Doak who could still potentially be on the way out of the door. So I think Liverpool have played a tactical one here and thought, well, Federico Chiesa is the easiest one to get rid of the three right now. And we need a squad spot open because we need to go on the full offensive for the Rodrygo or an Alexander Isak. I believe Liverpool are doing this Federico Chiesa one because they have a deal for Alexander Isak or Rodrygo or potentially someone else lined up, and they just need a little bit wiggle room to get it done. Let me know what you think. Should we go back over the comments once again from his agent? For those who might be coming in a little bit late, the first talking point of the stream was around Alexander Isak's agent making these comments, if you've not seen them yet. We are studying and analysing our options, and we may be close to finalising the next step for the player without revealing any details of a transfer. That was Alexander Isak's agent speaking to a Saudi Arabian newspaper, talking about, obviously, his client. Wow. This is definitely a transfer saga that is not looking like it's going away anytime soon, eh? The question begs, though, how does it play out? Also on the incomings front, Crystal Palace their fans, I've noticed recently on social media the past couple of days, have been starting to get really frustrated with the lack of incomes to their club. Now, I understand that because Crystal Palace have won the FA Cup. They've achieved, obviously, European football. It's still for debate whether it's going to be, well, it's still under review of whether it's going to be Europa League or UEFA Conference League. But their fan base are in a situation where they're coming off the back of an absolute high of winning their first trophy, well, their first major trophy, and are in a position of strength due to the European football to be able to attract players, but have not moved in the market yet. There has been links with Eze going to Arsenal. There has been obvious links with Mark Gay coming to Liverpool. It begs the question of, do they also need a little bit of cash? Is that why they're asking for such a high price for a defender who's only got 1 year left on his deal? And also the fact that they've not brought in his replacement as of yet. I believe they were in talks, or they were close to it anyway, getting Diamande, which you'd imagine would have paved a way for negotiations for Mark Gay. But that's not come to fruition yet. So Palace fans are starting to get frustrated. I mentioned this on one of the streams on my channel, and I mentioned this on the other late night Reds on our debut the other day. I think Liverpool are playing a blinder when it comes to the Mark Gay situation with Crystal Palace, because the longer that goes on, the more pressure there is on Crystal Palace, as the player has already explained that he will not be signing a new deal. So the closer it gets to deadline day, the closer Crystal Palace are getting to sacrificing, a large sum of money for a player who's on a year left on his deal. I think Liverpool are being patient with this one, and I think they're doing the right thing. What do you guys think? DB says, one thing to remember is our non-homegrown quota is borderline right. So one of Diaz, Nunes, or Chiesa will have to go, if not more, to bring in the likes of Rodrygo or Isak. Yes, well, so you can have more than, let's say the non-homegrown spot is 17 players, just off the top of my head. I don't think it is. But you could have 35 in your squad if you want. It's just how many you register. So if it was a case of we couldn't move on those players, I don't think Liverpool would do this. But there is the scope there to say, for example, sign a Rodrygo and Isak, and then just not register Chiesa for the first 6 months of the season. Again, I'd be flabbergasted if Liverpool do that, because we don't do things like that. And I'm pretty sure we would just take a loan move on Chiesa before doing anything like that. But the non-homegrown and the homegrown quota isn't too much of a concern right now, especially since signings of Frimpong count as homegrown. Woodhouse, the goalkeeper from Preston, counts as homegrown. So Liverpool have got, I've got a little bit of space there. And the homegrown ones, you don't have to register all 8 homegrown players. It's just the fact that you lose out on that squad spot. So if it's a squad of, say, 25 and 8 of them have to be homegrown, the rest then can be non-homegrown. So if you don't register 8 homegrown players, you don't get fined, or you don't have to hit that. You basically just go in with a squad of, say, 24 rather than 25. You just can't go over a non-homegrown spot. That's the only one. So as you say, Diaz, Nunes, and Chiesa probably will end up leaving. But in the meantime, Liverpool have got to play it safe, just in case one of those players does stay. Leaving Federico Chiesa at home off the tour to secure him a move away, whether it's a transfer or a loan, then gives Liverpool some scope to go on the offensive and sign an Alexander Isak or sign a Rodrygo without infringing on the non-homegrown quota. So again, I think there's more at play with the Federico Chiesa one than just, he's got a bit of an injury. Liverpool know what they're doing. Jennifer Ball says, is Gooey? Do you mean Mark Gay? Is there a question there, Jennifer? Or are we talking about, is Mark homegrown? Because if that's the case, then yes, Mark Gay does count as homegrown. Obviously, he's an English centre-half. So let's actually go. We will circle right back to the start, and we'll carry on with a little bit of this Alexander Isak news. As you can imagine, it's going to be the talk of the town probably tonight. Magpie Media, which is one of Newcastle's larger, Twitter accounts that cover the club. I said, I'm over this whole Isak saga now. If he goes Saudi, it honestly wouldn't bother me that much. A few days ago, I was 99% convinced he'd stay. Now I think a departure is the more likely outcome. If he wants to leave, let him. No one is bigger than the club, not at Newcastle United Football Club. Now this is this is the approach I think Newcastle were hoping would happen if there was kind of any move for Alexander Isak. Yeah, no worries, Jen. It makes so much sense for Newcastle to have a scenario where they can paint Alexander Isak as forcing a move, or the agent playing the bad guy and putting Alexander in a bit of a sticky situation. I think it's really, 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 really clever that the agent just little comments tonight. You get those Newcastle fans in social media who are starting to turn a little bit, and you know, as that one went there from Magpie Media, they say, no one's bigger than the club. You start getting little comments like that are alluding to, well, you know what? We'll be happy to see the back of you because we're Newcastle, and you can't hold us to ransom. That's exactly how you want it to play out. You want the Newcastle fans starting to turn a little bit on Alexander Isak and his agent so that they can apply a little bit more pressure and go, look, it's the best situation for all of us if we just move. Could be to Saudi Arabia, could be to Liverpool. Who knows? I think I think personally, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the chat. Do do you think Alexander Isak hands in a transfer request? Because I honestly think if there is no movement made on Isak leaving Newcastle, he could hand a transfer request in next week. Come the end of the week, is my opinion. So let me know. Let me know in the chat if you think he'd hand in a transfer request. Is he that kind of guy? Pressure does funny things to a person. If you've got pressure of a big move, a huge contract, the chance to increase your personal profile, chance to increase your professional profile, the opportunity to make money that you simply can't make at Newcastle United, whilst also having the opportunity to play with all those players at Liverpool and compete for the Premier League and the Champions League. Pressure can be a funny thing, and it can warp you. Leith Lewis says he might come next year. Now, I firmly agree that he could come next year, especially if he doesn't move this summer, as I think Liverpool's interest will stay, it'll maintain. But I don't want to see it from our point of view because I think that's obvious. I want us all to try and see it from Alexander Isak's point of view. Put yourself in his shoes, right? Put yourself in his shoes. How can you watch what's happening to Newcastle and their transfer window so far, and Liverpool's transfer window, and the previous season's just gone? Because bearing in mind as well, I know they achieved top four, but they just scraped through on a technicality on the last day. How can you watch the two situations, have a club as huge and as prestigious as Liverpool, who are on this massive upwards trajectory of trying to dominate world football? How can you see all that happening and have that club say that they want you to be their record signing and they want you to be their number one striker? How can you watch all that play out and just go, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I am convinced he wants this move right now during this window. But as Damo says, he's not for sale. So looks like he's not for sale, Eddie Howe's comments were pretty clear that he's not for sale. You know, the agent seems convinced that he's not for sale. Probably the same way that Luis Diaz isn't for sale. Probably the same way that even Mohamed Salah isn't for sale. Let the money talk. Let the money talk is all I'm going to say. And let the player and his agent talk. Let the ambition talk. Do we think? Let's come at it from a different point of view. Actually, do we think those quotes could be that Alexander Isak is signing a contract extension with Newcastle, with him saying, "I'm not revealing any transfer details"? Do we think it could be that? Personally, I I really can't see how he would sign a new deal. You know, they've got PSR issues. Eddie Howe mentioned in his comments after the Celtic defeat that they aren't the biggest, spenders and the biggest payers in the Premier League, and they can't be. Alexander Isak is rumoured to already be one of the better paid players at Newcastle. And the Northern journalists were saying that there's not really much scope to improve his deal anymore, whilst also trying to improve the squad and the team. They're already missing out on transfers left, right, and centre. I really don't see how he could sign a new deal unless it had some kind of gentleman agreement or even a written release clause for next summer. Yeah, I really don't. So anything Liverpool on Twitter, one of the aggregators, has said Isak news means either A, he's signing a contract extension, or B, he's engineering a move. Honestly, feel like he signs a new contract extension, but who knows? Few people's replies are, I don't. They're already struggling with PSR. The more they spend on wages, the more money they have to save elsewhere. And for a team that are needing to invest, it doesn't make sense to splurge it all on one player. Eddie Howe has already expressed his disappointment in the fact that they're not being able to spend much money and they're not being able to get deals over the line. What do you guys in the chat think? Do you think it's a contract extension, or do you think he's about to start engineering for a move? What do we think? If you're in there and you are new and you are liking the stream so far, then please, please like the stream and hit subscribe. Come and join us at Talking Reds. We are so close now to hitting 1,000 subscribers. So close. All your support and love and help is really, really appreciated as we try and grow this community. There is, really good, hardworking people behind Talking Reds that try and bring you the best streams on YouTube and the best entertainment. And all we ask for in reply is a simple push of a button of subscribe and a little like to go with it. A little seasoning of a like. So really, really, really appreciate it if you could do that. How wouldn't have sent him home if it was a contract extension for me? Very good point. Totally forgot about that. If there's a player who's about to sign a contract extension and show his intention of staying at Newcastle Football Club, why on earth would you have to leave him at home in fear of speculation around his future and you don't think the player's in the right, mindset and frame? Yeah, that one doesn't add up for me either, DB. That one really doesn't add up for me. I tell you what would be a shame though, regardless of all this and the whole saga around Alexander Isak, I'd be gutted to see him go to Saudi Arabian League. I would honestly, hand on heart, because one, it'd give Liverpool a better opportunity to sign him, but two, because I think it's better for the league. I'd hand on heart rather see him stay at Newcastle than join the Saudi Arabian League if it meant Liverpool or Newcastle, because a player of his powers and his capabilities in the form that he's in and the stage of his career, to see him go to the Saudi Arabian League and not have the possibility to win, the sport's biggest trophies it'd be really, really disappointing for Alexander Isak, and it'd be disappointing for football. I mean, it'd be Saudi Arabia's biggest ever signing. It's bigger than Ronaldo to sign a player for the kind of fee that would be quoted, but also more importantly, a player who is in his absolute prime and could play anybody in world football, for him to choose a Saudi Arabian team would be a massive statement of intent. But I'd be so disappointed. I'd probably be disappointed in him. I'd be disappointed for him. Yeah. Fingers crossed that's not the case. And, he'll stay in Europe and hopefully compete in the Premier League next season, whether that is for Liverpool or Newcastle. Right. Anyway, let's divert a little bit from Alexander Isak. I know he's the talking point. I want to discuss Rodrygo. Okay. Now, if you were in the late night Reds the other night, or you've been over on my channel and watched any of my streams, you'll know I am Rodrygo's probably number one fan. Huge fan. I think, and I got into a debate. Well, not a debate, but me and Damo had a chat about it on one of the morning shows the other day. That I honestly think he has Ballon d'Or potential. I genuinely believe Rodrygo could achieve the Ballon d'Or. The the technical capabilities, the ball striking, the beat players, the pace, the the uh, the way that he can turn up in clutch moments for Real Madrid countless times. Manchester City, Atletico Madrid last season, Manchester City again, because they always play Man City in the Champions League. The way that he can always turn up at important moments, that isn't something that you can necessarily, train. It's just sometimes a gift or an inclining that a player has. And that can be the difference sometimes between being absolutely world class and just being a really good player. One thing I am asking you to do as a Liverpool fan before you start going into Rodrygo and whether you think we should sign or we shouldn't sign him is I don't want you to look at it as just a numbers point of view. Don't go and think, right, well, what were his numbers last season? What were his stats? How many league goals did he score? How many league assists did he get? I want you to think more about the entirety of the player and think about the context surrounding it all. Okay. He's current at Madrid. He's been there for, I think it's coming up 5 years now, 5, 6 years. He has played left wing, right wing, striker, number 10, midfielder. He has constantly been shifted around due to Vinicius Junior, Kylian Mbappe recently, Arda in the Club World Cup, Benzema when Benzema was there, Di Maria, I believe. No, not Di Maria. Sorry. Asensio. He's had to sacrifice, the favoured position of his career where he can really flourish, just due to being a team player and loving Real Madrid. Whilst doing all this, as we mentioned, he's come up with countless clutch moments, but also he's got nearly 40 goals and assists in 60 Champions League games for Real Madrid before the age of 24. They are impressive numbers on the world's biggest stage. This is a player that has the ceiling and the capabilities to really fulfill his potential of that world class status that we all thought he had when he was a kid, when Liverpool were first interested, when he was at Santos, I believe. So you have to look at the situation and go, right, well, what can Liverpool offer that Real Madrid can't? Well, Liverpool can offer a starting position at left wing. We can offer a fan base that will love and adore him and will make him our number one. We can offer a settled coaching staff and a settled team and squad of serious quality. But we can also offer the springboard and the redemption arc that maybe he feels like he needs. Liverpool have a really good track record of signing players when they are on a little bit of a redemption arc. Mohamed Salah didn't quite work out at Chelsea. Liverpool was his second chance. We're getting a similar one with Hugo Ekitike, where it didn't quite work out at PSG when he got his big move and he's getting a second chance. Rodrygo's has worked out at Real Madrid because he's been one of their best players since he's been there, but it's now at a stage of his career where it's feeling a little bit like, I need somewhere I can call home for the next 4 or 5 years, get regular minutes, play left wing, and show world football just how seriously talented and effective I am. Someone mentioned it the other day in one of our streams with Damo that it's similar. I think it might have been UDB. It's similar to the Harvey Elliott situation where you absolutely love and adore the club that you're at. You love Real Madrid. In Harv's case, you love Liverpool. But that love and that sacrifice that you're making is now becoming detrimental to you in your career. So coming back to DB's one before of like a missus, it's like that woman that you love and you do everything for her and you bend over back and you change yourself and you put up with a few red flags because you just want to be with her. But it's now becoming detrimental to you. Your health's taking effect. You're starting to, run yourself into the ground because you're doing more than you need to for them. And Rodrygo's probably in a similar situation now with Real Madrid, where he's sacrificing minutes in his position, which then ultimately sacrifices his chances of being effective for the Brazilian national team. And it snowballs. So is Rodrygo now looking for a home and a platform where he can go, right, this is my team, this is my position, this is my ceiling and what I'm capable of. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to the heights of world football with Liverpool Football Club on this upward trajectory. I guess we'll know soon because there's rumoured talks with Xabi Alonso coming up to have those final crunch conversations of, you're not guaranteed minutes here. Go and find a new home. And then hopefully, it's Liverpool Football Club who step in. So that's our conversation around incomings, outgoings, and the breaking Alexander Isak news done. We'll have one last scroll of Twitter to see if anything has happened regarding it. Anything else? I don't believe there's any extra news to go over, but I could be wrong. If there's any questions or anything you want to speak about right now, please feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll go over it before we end. If there's not in the next couple of minutes, then we'll cut it here. It's been a really good stream so far. Don't forget to like the stream. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new to Talking Reds. We really, really, really appreciate it. Alexander Isak, man. His agent has just thrown an absolute spanner into the works. Jonathan says, hi, lad. I just wanted to say RIP Jota. Of course, Jonathan, if you've not seen the mural for Jots and his brother Andre is now complete in Liverpool. So the next time you're down at Liverpool, make sure you go and try and have a look. I'm going to go and get over there myself this week, and I'm going to do a video of the mural for people who maybe live abroad or just simply can't get out of the house and want to see it. So if you want to see that, then obviously head over to my channel for the Reds, because I'm going to get out there and document the incredible, the incredible mural that's been created for Liverpool and his brother, Andre. And Jonathan's a Newcastle United supporter. So thank you very much for that, Jonathan. It's been incredible to see how world football has come together for Diogo and his brother. I was at the Preston game, I was at the Preston friendly, and Preston were outstanding the way they handled the situation and the way they paid homage to Diogo and his brother. I was in floods of tears. And it just felt like it was needed, and they really helped us through everything that day. You can take Rodrygo in two ways. Could it be, again, wild metaphor, but the whole battered partner and accepting it as I love Real Madrid? Or does he has the Sturridge mentality of I'll play or not, meh. Someone mentioned Sturridge the other day, saying, does he need the Sturridge moment where you've shown your potential at Man City, you've shown your potential at Chelsea, but you've never really been given a settled home, and now Liverpool are offering it you. So could you see it as that one as well? To use Eddie Howe's comments, player careers are short. Are you willing to spend the next 3 to 4 years playing second fiddle behind Vinicius and Mbappe and Bellingham and Rodrygo, not Rodrygo, and Camavinga and Valverde? Are you happy to let them all get the plaudits whilst they also, sign youngsters like Endrick and Ardagula? Or are you willing to step away from the place in the club that you love to go and make a real name for yourself, which ultimately will create a better player and a better form for your national team with Brazil as well? You know? Jonathan says, will Harvey Elliott stay with Liverpool or will he leave? I would say it is 99.9% nailed on that Harvey Elliott leaves. It's clear that he's not trusted by the manager. And it's pretty obvious that many, 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 many clubs, including your own club, Jonathan, in Newcastle, would be interested in taking him, as he's shown in the under-21s Euros at the end of the season. Harvey has got a fantastic career ahead of him. It just doesn't look like it's going to quite work out at Liverpool. So, who knows? He might go and have a really stellar pre-season tour. Slot might find a new way of using him. He might stay as the backup for Mohamed Salah if Chiesa leaves, and he might be the sixth attacker. But Frimpong played right wing today in the pre-season behind closed doors friendly against Stoke, so I would be surprised. Also, I'll one sec, I'll put the link in the chat. If you haven't already, if you go over to my Twitter, I've retweeted the highlights from today's game, both the highlights of just the shot, the goals, and then the highlights of the actual 13, 14 minutes of the game. Liverpool won 5-0 against Stoke in a behind closed doors friendly. Darwin Núñez scored 3. Rio Engamoa scored, and Federico Chiesa scored. Florian Wirtz got himself an assist and a pre-assist and looked scintillating. Whilst also Frimpong played right wing and Conor Bradley played right back. And again, Frimpong got a pre-assist for the Chiesa goal. So if you want to go and watch those highlights after the stream of Liverpool's behind the closed doors game today, then just go to my Twitter there, and it'll stay in the chat, and you'll be able to see Liverpool romping Stoke City. Jonathan says we would take him but not swap for Isak. Hey, Harvey Elliott and Isak, similar value. You see Isak as 150 million. Harvey told Alisson to do one last season, so that's 150 million our book. So maybe we could do Harvey and 20 quid. I think that'd be fair. DB says Darwin finishing like prime R9 today, Ryan. Why does he do this every pre-season and make us consider giving him another year? Oh, every pre-season I've watched Darwin Núñez and I've thought, this is it. That's a good finish. Oh, that's a nice little bit of play. And then he gets to the key moments and he gets to the competitive games where, the opposition are maybe actually trying and fall apart. At least it could ramp up his value though a little bit. Jonathan says Isak's not for sale. I'm not too sure on that, Jonathan. I am pretty certain that Newcastle would sell Alexander Isak for the right price to the right club. That could be the Saudi Arabian League. Alexander Isak definitely has a price because every footballer has a price. It's just whether a club is willing to pay that right now. It started off as not for sale. It started off as it then went to 200 million would have to be the number to get him, to get to the negotiation table. Then after the Celtic game, there was a Newcastle journalist saying Newcastle are still steadfast on their evaluation of 150 million for Alexander Isak. Just the tune just keeps changing, every now and then. Do we think? Should we hang on? Do we think there's going to be anything at 10:30? There's always news at 10:30 because that's when print media comes out. But do we think there's going to be anything? So there's been a change of the agent comments. I don't know whether this is a different translation or not, but it says we are indeed studying and analysing all our options, and we may be close to finalising the next step for the player without revealing any details regarding whether Isak will transfer or stay with Newcastle. Now they're not the ones I've seen, but I don't know. Damn right, DB. If you want to see more of Liverpool's transfer window, and even just general football chit chat, because that's what we do here, then subscribe and hit the notification bell so you are always notified of when we go live. Right, okay. So here is the actual translation. So it has changed. I think these are the actual quotes translated. We are indeed studying and analysing all options, and we may be close to finalising the next step for the player, without revealing any details regarding whether Isak will transfer or stay with Newcastle. Right, okay. I don't know. Do we? I don't think. He goes to Saudi Arabia. I would be amazed if he goes to Saudi Arabia. Oh, maybe he will. L'Equipe. Newcastle are demanding £113 million for Alexander Isak, who has now agreed to open negotiations with Al Hilal. 113? I can only presume that's 113 million to Saudi Arabia because they'll pay it up front. I would be amazed. That comment, Ryan. If staying, you would say I'm staying. You're only vague if you're trying to force a move. If you are extending, you will say I am staying, like Wolf of Wall Street staying. I'm not fucking leaving. I tend to agree. I would be if you're an agent and you know there's no chance of your club selling and you know there's no way out, it's pointless you going, well, we might move because you know it's never happening. So you might as well just go on the steadfast and go, look, we're loyal, we're getting a new bumper deal. This is the move. This is what we're doing. I have not liked the news and the noise around Alexander Isak to Saudi Arabia since it started. As there's always something when there's too much smoke and not enough fire or whatever the quote is. I'm trying to do two things at once, but it just feels to me like the the that's like the Newcastle cop out, to sell him to Saudi Arabia and get a massive lump sum, and he gets a huge payday, and he'd only be trying to come back to Saudi Arabia, sorry, back to Europe after the season out there. I'm wondering, I'm wondering, do do Isak? Let me just think about this so that I make sure I get it right. I'm wondering, are Alexander Isak, his agent and Newcastle all working together to manufacture a moment and a way of Saudi Arabia applying the pressure, Newcastle showing openness to sell and can speak about reinvesting in the club. Because it's the Saudi Arabian League, Newcastle fans aren't as disappointed and go, right, well, you know what? Actually, I'm open to selling him to the Saudi League because we can get this lump sum of money. And then, excuse me, and then Newcastle, Isak's agent, and Isak can start to just feed to the media. I don't think Saudi Arabia is the right move for my career right now. I want to stay in Europe. And Newcastle can go, well, look, we need that money. You know, we've already planned that money. We've already planned where it's going. We already had something agreed with the Saudis. If any team in Europe's willing to match that, you know, then you can have him. And then that's when Liverpool step in. I'm just playing, conspiracy theorist there. Daz Reynolds says, "What's up with Keys not going on the tour?" As we said before, Daz, I think it's just a case of Liverpool have got a move engineered for him. They've said it's a slight knock, which it's not, because if it was a slight knock, you'd be going because we're out there for like 2 weeks. It's definitely Liverpool leaving him at home whilst the engineers a move. Might not move until we come back off the tour, but it's here to engineer a move, and it opens up a spot for Liverpool to hopefully then go and be able to pursue a deal for Alexander Isak or Rodrygo. We'll hang on. We'll just go for a little chilled one, and we will hang on until we'll hang on till 10:30 to see if anything comes out. Daz says, I was literally just typing that, right? Great minds think alike. Great minds think alike, DB. I think it makes sense. I think Newcastle have got to be really careful if he does leave of how it happens, because the more negativity on their already pretty poor window, it's not going to start the season off well, is it? As because too much ambition to go to Saudi Arabia now. I hope so. I really, really hope so. I would be, like I said before, I'd be devastated for him. I'd be devastated for Newcastle fans. I'd be devastated for us. For him to go to Saudi Arabia and write off any kind of door, because yeah, it'd be really, really sad to see him go to Saudi Arabia if he feels like he needs to force a move out of Newcastle and he's trying to just go anywhere. It would be really sad to see. Also, just on a personal one, guys, whilst we're waiting for 10:30, my page hit 401 subscribers today, which is pretty cool. Damo has done a stream on there, which I really suggest you go and watch. It was from a few years ago, and it was Damo and a bloke called Ian Young from Redmen TV, and they both go against each other, debating whether it should be FSG out or FSG in. And I would love to have that conversation again with Damo now, because I think the general consensus around FSG has definitely changed in Damo's point of view from what it was like. Also, as well, if you are into fantasy football, Damo is going to run a fantasy football for Talking Reds, for obviously us coaches, us obviously us presenters and us guys, as well as you. And then there's going to be forfeits, I think, on the channel for if we screw up. So yeah, I definitely keep an eye out on that for fantasy football. I am awful at it. I hate it. I pick it up. I turn it on, and I'm like, I like this squad. Put it out, and that's it. So, yeah. I'd definitely keep an eye on that one if I was you. Right, it's getting close to 10:30, so if there is any news, we will have it in a second. I hope you've all enjoyed the stream tonight. It's definitely been an interesting one with Alexander Isak's news of his agent, but also it's been really, really interesting to have that discussion around Rodrygo and what could happen there. And also what these possible agent, quotes and things could mean, if there's anything cryptic behind it or not. But we'll see. All right, 10:30. I'm not seeing anything. Newcastle, though, apparently are advancing on a deal to sign Brentford striker Johan Visser, according to the tweet. Now, obviously, they wanted a striker before any kind of potential sale of Alexander Isak, so that one doesn't surprise me, as they're desperate for depth in that kind of position, especially with Callum Wilson leaving as well. So I wouldn't put two and two together with that one, unless you saw them sign Johan Visser and then get linked to more strikers. There's talk of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I believe, on a potential fee. So, yeah, we'll see. Right, anyway. Jordan Prushall, LFC, says, I am new here. Well, welcome, Jordan. If you have enjoyed it, then please consider subscribing for Talking Reds. I am the new host of Late Night Red Show, so you'll see my face a lot at night time. The plan is to, on the quieter nights when there's not so much breaking news and things to discuss, is to get the chat involved a little bit more, maybe do some quizzes, some more interactive things with you guys. So 100%, if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely subscribe. He's also just shared the stream, so really appreciate that. Any kind of love, guys. Honestly, it goes such a long way. Like I say, Damo and the rest of the lads, we put in so much hard work to bring you guys the best quality content that we can and the best streams. And all we're asking for in return is a simple subscribe and like, because it goes such a long way to building, hopefully, a community that can, really thrive around Liverpool Football Club, which is, the thing we all love. DB says, here's something to consider as to why Saudi's all smoke and mirrors. Other day, Saudi wanted Vinicius Jr. So why you not heard Real Madrid selling, coming in for Isak and putting Mbappe out left? It's all nonsense. Good point. It's a good point. What was it, like 300 million or something like that for Vinicius? It'd have been like a world record. Mental. Jordan's a big fan of Liverpool Football Club. Well, that is fantastic, Jordan, because we all are here. That's why we're called Talking Reds, and I am from for the Reds. It's all about these. Oh, let's turn the other way around. It's all about Liverpool Football Club. Won't be this anymore, though. As of August 1st, it won't be this anymore. The Adidas. Have you seen the new kits, guys? I think it looks stunning. As Damo says, we're live at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. BM says before we go, we need to re-sign Konate. He's top 10. I think people are jumping the gun a little bit too early on Konate going to Real Madrid. I think there's still scope there to do a new contract. What I would say is Richard Hughes is known for being a very, very, very hard-headed, stubborn, emotionless negotiator. So if you think you've got any chance of playing him and getting an extra 20 grand a week out of him, you have got no chance. If you sign, it will be on Eddie Howe's terms. No, it won't be on Richard Hughes. Well, the best friends, so. Like and sub on your way out, people. Thank you very much, DB, for saying it's a great stream. I really, really, really appreciate that. As I say, if you want to see more of my face and the lads, then make sure you subscribe to Talking Reds. I am your host of the Late Night Red Show, and you can find me here at my YouTube channel for the Reds. As I say, Damo's been on there before. A really good live stream that I recommend you all go and watch, where he debates FSG. I think it's time on Talking Reds we do a new one and we talk about FSG. So, with further ado, thank you very much for watching this edition of Late Night Reds. We've got through a lot of interesting stuff tonight. It has been a whirlwind with the Isak age comments. We were not expecting that on a random Sunday night, was we? And Federico Chiesa being left out of the tour. He's a senior player who's paid a hefty fee of wages per week who will not be on the pre-season tour, which is key because that is where Arne Slot and his coaches can get through a lot of work regarding tactics and systems, and he won't be there. I think the writing's on the wall for our boy Federico, but I hope we still sing his song because it is incredible. Right, guys, thank you very much for watching. As I say, please subscribe. Please hit the like, turn that notification bell so you know when we are going live. It is really, really, really appreciated. We love you all.